Hi, this is Gloria, your life coach. Welcome to another episode of Life's a Shuffle.
Hey guys, this is Ron Johnson, life coach, leadership coach, motivational speaker, and health coach. And welcome to an episode of Life is Shuffle. It's funny. I always use this funny because it's when you realize something is really true or not true and how to shift, it becomes funny because you think about all the things that are happening. So the funny thing is that how you view the world daily will change how you view everything around you. So today's topic is how you view the world and how you view the world around things around your daily life. Let me give you a perfect example of that. If I have the mindset, let's say, of fear and doubt, when I walk outside and let's say I see someone with a mask, right? And I'm fearful of the virus, as an example, and they wear a mask filled with the virus. First thing I think about, wow, if I go outside, everybody wears a mask. I'm fearful I'm going to get it, so I'm going to go outside. Let's say another fear can be is, let's say you walk outside and you know what, you see someone get in a car accident. So the fear could be now I can get in a car accident, right? So all these things we actually are not really real. Okay, I'll say that again. These things of fear, doubt, sadness, insecurities, desire, and all that stuff, they really aren't real. And what I mean by that is that we give power to these things. So you give power to stress, you give power to fear, you give power to ambitions, you give power to desire. Let's go a little bit deeper. Okay, let's talk about the body. The body itself is a conscious being. And we hear about it all the time, conscious, unconscious, and all that stuff. But the body itself, the mind, is a conscious being. So your arm is just the arm. It does not have a conscious thought. So the mind controls the hands, controls the feet, everything. Your consciousness controls your mind. So when you think about that, what you give power to anything in your life will thus control you. You think I'm in control, but actually controls you. So, Gloria, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's the way we see the world. It's also the way we perceive ourselves to the rest of the world, and that obviously has influence on our behavior and our beliefs.
What else?
Um,
Look, you lost.
I know, I am. I'm thinking here. I want to go back to the example that you gave about, now that wearing a mask is mandated, or just coverings on your face, right? Um, that how does that affect you? So obviously, it might affect your feelings, your emotions, um, and what kind of things that it might make you do, and how it might affect the way you pay attention now to your surroundings.
That's certainly true. So let's think this. I'm gonna have a. It's called the law of initial value. So, law of initial value states that the effect one sees is not in the stimulus, but has to do with the setup of organism, the pre-existing condition. So, I'll say it again. The law of initial value states that the effect one sees is not the stimulus.
So what do you mean by
It's
that?
only the stimulus we hold in our mind. Okay, let's take stress. I'm
Mm-hmm.
quite sure right now everybody has something they're worried about, or something they're stressed about, or something they're figuring out, something they're upset, whatever could be happening. Okay, let's talk about stress because first thing people say, I'm going through something, I'm stressed. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the value is stress, let's say, right? But let's open an envelope. So let's say if you have, for example, you have an envelope, right? So in front of the envelope, you write stress. All right, so if you get a bill from the IRS, you immediately get a bill from the IRS, or it says IRS on the front, let's say, you all might get stressed because you see IRS, but you open up, it can be something as simple as you get a refund. And when you see the refund, you feel excited, right? So let's take that as an example. So here it is on the front of the envelope, it says stress. Okay. Now, if we open the envelope and look inside, which is you, because remember, you're stressed, let's say as an example, open the envelope in. What's behind that stress in that envelope? It can be, well, I may lose my job. So I become stressed. Okay. I may not be able to pay my bills, so I become stressed. So initially, stress has no value. It's the value we give to it. I'm stressed because of this. So basically, what it means is that stress is not a stimulus. When we incorporate stress as I don't have a job, I'm going through a tough time in a relationship, or I'm getting a divorce, or wherever it may be, then you get the value to stress or to anything. It does not exist. Remember that podcast we first did a long time ago called Regrets? Same thing. You give power to regrets. Regrets really do not exist. They only exist what we give power to. So when we look at stress, we give meaning to stress. That's what the law of initial value means. It doesn't have a stimulus. Like fear, stress, victim doesn't have a stimulus. It's when we give power or meaning to it what causes us to feel a certain way. One thing to look at, let's talk about stress again. Stress really comes from a point of view. So anything has stress, fear, doubt, anxiety, victim is what is how you view things in the world. And how you view it holds into your mind. Let's say I'm going out, let's say to walk my dog, and I see trash, right? First thing I can obviously think in my mind, man, every time I walk my dog, I see trash. So I look around, and I say, man, I see trash all over the place. So my thought process becomes every time I walk my wall, I'm gonna see trash, the debris. So what happens initially now you see all the time. You pinpoint more every time you go out. Let's say walking my dog, I see more and more. So
Hmm.
when you give power to stress, fear, doubt, you give it more, and everything around you becomes that value. Right. So what I mean by that is go a little bit deeper in here. We are a wonderful, conscious human being. We were designed perfectly. Okay. Now, does humanness exist, which means imperfect, we're gonna make mistakes. It's a learning. Yes, we're not born on a roadmap how to do every single thing, right? How to walk, right? We gotta fall a couple of times so we figure out how to walk, right? We're not born to drive a car, but if we do it enough times, we figure out how to drive a car, right? If we get hired at a job, most of the time we have to go through some kind of 90-day probation period where it teaches us how to do something, right? So we have everything we need inside of us, but we also do not know that we project what we see in the world and we can control our thought process. Let me ask you a question, Gloria. What
Hmm.
is something that in your life currently, right now, that you're projecting on the world that you're seeing all the time, as an example?
Hmm. It's a good one. Putting me on a spot here.
Of course, I have to.
I don't know. Let's see. Something that I see right now that's projecting, right?
That you're creating, that you're projecting.
Um, I'll give you one. Okay. This is actually probably before, not at the moment because I'll give you this example because at the moment now it's gotten better, right? It was the way I was thinking before. So let's see. I let me talk about volleyball here. Okay.
hmm
So when we had this shelter in place, obviously everything had pretty much a lot like say tournaments, practices, and all that pretty much had ended, right?
hmm
So it was obviously it had affected me emotionally because it was something that I was really looking forward to. We were barely halfway through the season, and there's a lot more exciting things that will happen, and especially towards the end of the season. And so those were the things I was looking forward to. Looking forward to bonding with with the team and going to this big tournament. And when that had ended, basically it was canceled. It wasn't going to be rescheduled, right? So I felt like, damn, the whole world. I was mad at the whole world, right? So everything else I look at was volleyball is over. It's done. I'm not going to be able to play. I'm not going to be able to coach for the rest of the year, just everything. So it created um, some type of level of stress in me. And at the same time, kind like anger a little bit.
Hmm.
And then I remember that moment, I was just like, I felt like I was really mad at the world, kind of defeated, right?
Hmm. So you're stressed, you're angry, you're defeated. Okay.
Right. And then comes where, okay, I miss it. Obviously, I miss the team. I miss that bond that we have every time that we have practice or when, a whole day tournament that we have. Of course, then I started missing those. But then I started thinking that, and that's why I was affected by it like that. Then in the end, now not realizing that, well, wait a minute, it doesn't have to really be over. Just because we can't have the tournament doesn't mean that we can't, now that you know, shelter in place is, it's kind of easing up a little bit now, doesn't mean that we don't have now or the summer to get together and figure something out to play.
Hmm.
Or or let's say have practice. I mean, obviously they try to do virtual training, which I think it's good, but at the same time it's not the same because it's with the type of job that let's I do and that you do, especially in the fitness, right? It's different when you're with them one on one because you get to show them and correct the right form.
Hmm.
You can't It's hard to just tell them online or tell them through the camera, this is how you do it. um so now that it's easing up a little bit, then I'm thinking, well, it wasn't that bad at all. So if I think back, well, shoot, what was that all about? I overreacted, you know?
Let's stop right there for a second. I hate to cut you off, but
Mhm,
there's a lot to say because you gave a lot of other things that are not conscious beings more power over you. So let's say SIP, I think it's a short term, shelter in place, right? So
mhm,
shelter in place happened. It happened, right? That happened. So if you take, let's say, shelter SIP and put it in the middle, let's say, right? So those out there, get a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, and let's say you write shelter in place and put a big circle around it, right? We use it as a web map. Outdoor shelter in place, okay, boom, stress, anger, I miss my kids, no more volleyball, no more happiness, no more. I mean, the list can go on and on what you were saying. But all those thoughts in your mind gave power to shelter in place. Does not exist. You gave power and you gave meaning to that stuff. It was not a stimulus. Yes. It didn't make you feel frustrated. Yes. Did it make you feel disempowered? Yes. Did it make you feel victimized? Yes. Did it take away your happiness? Yes. But those thoughts you gave power to. You brought up stress, right? So all those, when you said stress, I felt stressed about this. And I felt stressed because I can't see my kids. I felt stressed because now we have to do Zoom training. I felt stressed. So stress didn't exist. When you start putting things into that envelope, right? Just like putting things into a box. If it fits, it ships. We all have seen a commercial. If it fits, it's shipped by USPS. So the more you gave that value, which is stress, the more and more you made your box bigger. So
mhm,
everything is fitting inside. Anger, okay? Anger is a feeling, but you give power to anger. I'm angry because I can't see my kids. I'm angry because I can't play volleyball. I'm angry because remember, so anger didn't exist. When you start giving more power, it gave more power over you. So stress became power over you, feel victimized. Anger because you can't control it, but you can't control your thoughts. What was marvelous about that though is that then you realize it's not that bad. I can't get through this. There's one thing David Hawkins said in his book Healing and Recovery, and I always say, please, please read at least one of his books. Fine, that he has 8 editions, and I think I'm on a third edition. I didn't realize he had 8, but I'm on like the eighth book. I should start at the beginning, which is Power versus Force. Then I read Letting Go, which is like third edition. But anyways, says one thing. He said this. I wrote it down on a 3x5 card. It says, "I am not I am an infinite. Sorry, I am an infinite human being. I am not subject to this." So you're subjecting yourself to stress. You're subjecting yourself to, let's say, anger. You're subjecting yourself to victim. Once you say to yourself, I'm an infinite human being, I don't have to subject myself to this. You don't. Right then and there, saying it over and over, you get to the sub and conscious of your mind, say, I'm not subject to that. That's it.
Mhm. And it's the way we view things also, and the way, because the viewpoint from, let's say, the way which we are looking at our current life can affect our daily thoughts and feelings. And that's exactly what had happened to me. And, the way you perceive things and your perspective. So, what I've realized is that I've had to understand the importance and the value, like what you said, of, the of perspective on our lives. Because if we don't, then we are misinterpreting what is going on around us, which is exactly kind of like what I did. So I had to look at it in a different way. And like what you said, stress was, started controlling me. Anger started controlling me, where I said I was angry at the world. So it was my actions too, how I reacted to it. And that's why I said in the beginning of this is the way we perceive ourselves to the rest of the world influences our behaviors and our beliefs.
It sure does. Because when you start feeling anger and stress, you realize anger and stress start to multiply in things around you. It started to be all you saw.
Hmm.
It all and boiled down to one simple factor. You're in the lower energy levels, which is what you started attracting. So it could be as simple as that all of a sudden now you see more posts like that on social media, let's say. You can see, you go outside and you go grocery shop, you can see that frustration right there. Instead of just being, like, just being is just being in a state of flow, right? And being in a state of flow means that anything around me is just in a state of flow. Once I start getting subjectivity to things around me or meaning to things around me, thus it starts coming more into my life for some reason. You start seeing the world like that. So how we started beginning about the top about how you see the world, when you start seeing things like stress, anger, doubt, all that stuff, then you start seeing the world like that. You can find stress in any avenues. Stressful driving, anger,
Hmm.
someone cut you off. You can find it in the world because you start perceiving everything around me is that, and this is going to happen. And that's what starts getting into, okay, well, one thing too is, well, so if all this happened in my life, why does God, an infinite human being or infinite being, do this to me? Like you hear it all the time. People always say, why did God have to do this to me? God didn't do anything. You did it to yourself. That's a simple truth. God didn't do anything, you did to yourself. And that's what makes the difference between those subconscious conscious thoughts, because a lot of time you just really just do it to yourself.
You do. And we have like sometimes too, some people will have that mental like filter, right? Where you only see one view and you don't see the other view, or you just, your focus just goes to the extreme. And what I meant by that is that you never see anything else in between. It's either good or bad, right or wrong, or all or nothing, but you don't see the in between sometimes.
Yeah, we don't. Before we start the podcast, we start talking about, we live in California, and those that listen around the world, California, United States. And the one thing we talked about was Gavin Newsom, right?
Hmm.
So our subjectivity was that Gavin Newsom's not doing anything. Let's say unemployment is just a pain in the butt for those that had to apply for EDD. Or let's say, you know what, he's shut down shelter in place. He's doing all these things. But then through our conversation, we start flipping the coin around. We start saying to ourselves or to each other, was, man, I can only imagine what he's going through. Like
Hmm.
we only have to manage our friends, our family, and ourselves, right? He has to manage a whole different ball game, and he has to try to make everybody happy.
Hmm.
So when you start looking at the coin on the other side and realizing, wait a minute, there is really multiple things going on. I can only imagine what he's going through. So now I went from, before I was angry at Gavin Newsom, I was furious because he said shelter in place. because I remember when you're in a victim mentality, I start seeing everything around me being victim. I'm a victim of shelter in place, let's say, and gyms are closed. So, you know what? I got to point the finger at somebody. Even though theoretically it's not his fault. He's just trying to protect, trying to do the best thing he can for everybody. But everybody, no, you can't make everybody happy. But when we start becoming aware that there's other things he's been going through too, we then go from victim, fear, doubt, anger, or stress as a lower energy level now to higher energy levels, which now apathy, sorry, not apathy, acceptance. That's when we start. Because now, hey, you know what? I can only imagine what he's going through. And then when we start talking about that, we ourselves heal too. So as I can say here, Gavin Newsom, put me shelter in place. It's his fault. I'm a victim. I'm upset. As you know, I was giving value to being upset, value to anger, value to stress, me personally, because all the things I felt after that, because it doesn't exist. But then when I started realizing, wow, I can only imagine what he's going through, I start healing myself because now I'm at a level of acceptance. Just is.
That's what it is. And that's what I meant by going to the extreme. We never see the in between. And that in between could be, what could he be going through? I mean, I can't even imagine the pressure that he has to go through to make this decision, and just like the president, he has to make a decision for the whole country. And again, that's another type of pressure that he has to go through. I mean, if it was just up to him, he probably already would have said, fuck it. The whole country's open, right?
Yeah.
Could have been like last month. The whole country would have reopened already. But there's again all that pressure from the others behind him and under him. So it could be all of them against him. And he can't just make that decision on his own. So, and that these are the in-betweens that I was saying that we don't think about because we go straight to the extreme or we jump into conclusion.
What we do is one thing is like putting a hot ember in your hand right now.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, like, would you pick up a hot coal, like say for instance, barbecue, and put it in your hand, hold it?
Hmm.
Would you do that? Like it's a hot burning coal, you put it in your hand, hold it. Would you hold it?
Mm-mm.
No.
No
So
way.
exactly. So if you said no way, that's our emotions. It's like placing a hot coal in our hand and it's going to blow up. That's how strong emotions are, and that's how powerful they are. They make people do all kinds of just decisions in their life. It can propel them to be better. But the thing is that anytime you use something to propel you forward, you always have to look at the opposite force of something. And so if I'm anger is propelling me towards somebody else, is creating also it creates opposite force, which it could be acceptance, it could be understanding, it can be a level of wow, you know what, I can only imagine what he's going through or anybody's going through at this time right now.
Mm-hmm.
And see, the part of getting to those different energy levels is one thing that's valued to you. Okay, everybody has been upset about something. And when you're in that state of upset, it can be for 2 seconds, it can be for years. When you're in that state, I gave my client this perfect example of something. So we're doing a Zoom call and life coaching. And I gave her, I took a water glass, right? It was empty. Right? The point of the matter was that when you anger about something, anger comes with frustration, emotional insecurities, right? Before you know it, the glass is full. And when the glass is full, can you put in more water with something that's already full? It's going to spill over. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're in these state of energies that are zapping you of your potential, you are less creative. So when you get angry about something, can you be creative being angry about something? If I'm angry about something, I can sometimes I can't be creative. You just are pissed off. You can't think clearly. People use
No.
that term all the time. I was so pissed off, I made a decision I couldn't think clearly. I made a mistake. All the
And you
time.
hear that all the time from
All the
people.
all the
Yeah.
time. And it's because they didn't realize that they were looking at things like a coin. Right? A
Mm-hmm.
coin, I always use a description. The best thing my life coach told me was a coin has two sides. You have to look at both sides. And when you start looking at both sides, heads and the tail, not just what you see, be either heads or tail, you actually start healing yourself and open up your mind to a different perspective. I give this as the last example. I love giving examples. I don't know why. But anyways, when I had that ex-boss of mine, like I talked about on my podcast, um, so the thing being, I always felt a certain way about him. He was racist. He was not a good leader. Okay, the list can go on. But when you really dig deep and think about it, if he didn't do what he did or make me feel a certain way, I wouldn't be where I am today. But I have to have kindness for this person because they're unaware or just sometimes just don't care. And they get in the states of, okay, I'm doing the right thing, I'm doing the right thing, I'm doing the right thing. I feel compassion for that person because he doesn't know what he's really doing to other people because he doesn't want to listen to other people. So
Mhm.
he's hurting himself in the long run. He's gonna wonder why everybody quits, why no one really likes me, everybody talks bad about me, no one wants to work for me. But then again, some people just really just don't care. That's the sad part. I mean, this is really a topic that can go infinite time, and it's a topic that we all have to do. Because just because you have perspective about something does not mean it's overnight. Okay, anything I say in this podcast today is not something that is overnight. So when I said about David Hawkins, I am an infinite being. I'm not subject to this. That's something you have to say to yourself over and over again. It may take 1 week to get over something. It may take 2 years. It may take 6 months. I don't know. Everybody's different. But healing has to start somewhere so that way you can heal yourself. It's not about healing somebody else. It's like you always heard that term, oh, you got to forgive someone else so you can heal yourself. It really is true because when you don't heal yourself, you hold on to resentment, you hold on to frustration, you hold on to anger, all those things that can pull you down. And you see everything around there the same way.
It's a process.
It really is. It
Yeah.
really is. And that's where it's the biggest thing there is that we always want instant gratification. Like you want to give us something instantly, but it's a process. And everybody's completely
Hmm.
different. So, this was a podcast into really viewing how we give power to words, our feelings, knowing that we are in control of those, and we only give meaning to those what we give meaning to. So, the word itself is not a stimulus, it's what we give to it that creates a stimulus, right? If you pick up a ball and throw it and it hits something, it's going to create an opposite reaction. If you don't pick the ball up, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not a conscious being. It's not going to do anything. It's just sit
Yeah.
there.
So if you, I'll give another example, and that is, I do this sometimes. So if let's say you wake up in the morning, right? You wake up thinking that today's going to be awesome. You'll likely be happier and be more productive. But if you wake up and you're already thinking, man, today's not going to be a good day. So guess what the rest of your day will be?
Crappy.
Exactly. But
That's
because you
crappy.
already started thinking that way.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Sure did. Well, I hope you guys really probably listen to it, re-listen to it, listen to it, and listen to it again, and do some research and read books. I always recommend that because you know what, we all have the will and the knowledge and the power to live above and beyond what we have, and that is more powerful than to you. Sorry, more powerful for you is knowing you have power within to make decisions for your personal life. We only have one life to live. The when you die, does your subconscious being go somewhere else? It's yeah, but you're dead at that point. But living in the time you are now, you can live above and beyond that. So thank you again for listening to a Life to Shuffle. These are some true stories, true accounts. We're trying to live beyond what we think is normal, whatever normal really is. We get
Mm-hmm.
power to normal, right? So I want to live the best life I can while I'm here, and that's always my mantra. And live the best life I can while I'm alive, and help the people I can. So it's a pleasure. Thank you for listening. As always, Ron Johnson, life leadership coach, motivational speaker, health coach. You can always find me on Instagram, Ron Johnson, life coach, and let's continue this momentum going forward.
Hmm. And again, what we talk about here and what we share with you guys, our listeners, the awareness that we have, and what we had gone through, it didn't happen overnight. It was a process for us. Um, so keep in mind, again, also that no matter what goes on around you, you're still in control. You can't control all the situations around you, but you can choose how to respond to each of them. And again, thanks for listening to another episode of Life's a Shuffle. This is Gloria. You can find me on Instagram, Gloria Life Coach, or check out my website, www.glorialifecoaching.com.